the representative of the Permanent Secretary, Minister of Finance and Economic Affairs, the representative of the civil society organizations in the Gambia, the representatives of the National Provident Fund scheme members of the Sshfc funds, the representatives of the board, management, and staff of the Social Security and Housing Finance Corporation, Mrs. Janet Davis Toure of the EU delegation of the Gambia, being the current representative of the NPF in the Sshfc Fund board, members of the press, ladies and gentlemen, good morning to you all. Assalamu alaikum. Yesterday we gathered here and held a successful process, deliberations in electing a board member for the Federated Pension Scheme employee representative at the corporation's board for another 3 years, 2021 to 2024. This morning, we gather here for the election of the National Provident Fund, your own scheme's representative at the board of the Social Security. This is a requirement of the Social Security Act 2015, clauses 5.1h and 7.1, and it requires a representative of the employee members of the NPF to serve in the governing body of the corporation, together with other members for an initial period of 3 years and renewable ones. The present board has been in place since May 2018, following their election for a 3-year term. Ladies and gentlemen, since my appointment at the helm of the corporation in April 2020, barely a year ago, I have tried to steady the ship and to make sure that the excesses of the previous regime are never repeated, as per the slogan of the Gambia Truth, Reconciliations and Reparations Commission, the never again. We have tried to work on the trajectory of improving the financial status of the corporation to ensure that the deficits of the 3-yearly actuarial valuation, which is mainly meant for the Federated Pension Scheme and the Industrial Injuries Compensation Fund, are reduced, if not eliminated. Ladies and gentlemen, during the last actuarial valuation, the actuaries raised 3 pertinent points, mainly on the FPS, but I want to repeat it here because it would be good for our deliberations as far as the National Provident Fund is concerned. Their main conclusion was that the primary reason for the funding of the Federated Pension Scheme, which states that the existing assets should be enough to cover fully the value of the benefits in respect of service already completed, has not been achieved. They also reminded us that the total value of the assets of the Federated Pension Scheme was 98.5% of the total actuarial liabilities. Their final reminder was reminded of a past service deficit of $29.8 million as at December 2017, the last valuation date, compared to the deficit of $518 million 3 years prior. We were still in the deficit, although it has reduced in 2017. The 2021 is coming up. We are at an advanced stage of recruiting the actuary for the 3-year ended December 2020. As I said earlier, the above financial issues mainly refer to the Federated Pension Scheme. However, as far as the National Provident Fund, our own fund, is concerned, the financial statements have also improved considerably between the years 2016 to 2019 audited and the 2020 draft financials as follows. In 2016 December, this deficit for the year was $1.6 billion. $1.6 billion. The deficit for the year as at December, for the year ended December 2016. Then that improved to a deficit of $22.8 million as at December 2017. Still the deficit. 2018, the deficit reduced to $16.5 million. Then 2019, a surplus of $83.8 million is audited also. Then finally, in 2020 December, my first year in office, $116 million surplus, draft financials. You will notice that the figures have been bad over the years. However, the deficit have now changed into surplus, and we hope that the cumulative the deficit in the reserves would also be received with a similar trajectory. Ladies and gentlemen, the last time the corporation paid interest on the NPF savings was in the year 2015 at a very, very low rate of 0.19% per annum. You can just compare that with the inflation or the GTB rates then, the treasury bill rates then, and know that definitely the returns were negative. There has been no interest paid between the years 2016 to date. This is mainly as a result of the very low returns from the investments of the National Provident Fund, coupled with the heavy cost of the executive directives that led to an overall SOE debt portfolio of $2.2 billion. Following my appointment in April 2020, we continued with the negotiations with the Ministry of Finance with the view to starting to look at options of trying to reverse the deficits, reducing the debt portfolio, and that led to an MOU with the government wherein $810 million was taken over by the Ministry of Finance through a repayment agreement to be repaid over the next 5 years. And the first installment, which was due in March 2021 of $81 million, I gladly announced that it was paid into our bank account. This is a big achievement which we could not have done without the support of the Ministry of Finance and Economic Affairs. And we hope to continue with similar discussions and approaches to ensure that most, if not all, of the reserves lost in the previous regime are recovered in the very near future. I just want to remind everybody that we are here for the appointment of an NPF board member in the corporation, and a good board representative helps the management in the running of the corporation, giving the policy guidance and the close oversight made on the management of the corporation. So a good representative is sine qua non to improvement in the governance environment in the corporation, which should translate into improved financial returns for the members. I don't want to bore you long. However, I want to mention main challenges that the corporation faces currently and the attempts made to learn from them and see how those could be improved. I have already mentioned to you the $2.2 billion SOE debt, having knocked off $810 million leaves us with $1.4 billion, very high, and most of the institutions are still struggling to pay, although some few are paying and continue to pay, like my former employer, the Gambia Ports Authorities, to name just a few. The impact of the COVID-19 has led to heavy withdrawals of savings due to those losing their jobs, permanently or temporarily, which is actually what the savings were meant for, unfortunately, to assist in a rainy day. The corporation would work on initiatives to increase registration numbers, such as improved sensitizations, and coming to the third point, improving the flexibility in our act and regulations, which led to a big delay in members' ability to be satisfactorily served until the regulations were amended with provisions such as reduced cooling off periods after redundancy or temporary loss of employment. A process of review of the Act has already started, which can allow better flexibility in the registration processes. For example, online registration, the use of digital technology in our general operations. This will even be better served with the upcoming Social Security Management Information System re-engineering, which should allow members to access their statements via an app, for example. As I said earlier, online registrations, paying of contributions via mobile money, allowing flexibility in amounts to be contributed rather than a fixed amount per month, or a fixed percentage, depending on your earnings. And finally, easier conditions for recovery of savings deposits, rather than putting in very, very stringent conditions for people to even access their own money. The high level of staff numbers continues to be a burden on the corporation, ladies and gentlemen, which is being managed through natural attrition, transfers, and reskilling in other departments within the corporation. You are all aware, I'm sure, of the difficulties in the corporation around early 2018 when the office was almost shut down as a result of industrial action. So these are all decisions taken subsequent to that with a view to ensuring improved staff, management staff, industrial relations, and better stability in the corporation. The low literacy rate of the members is also another big challenge. Members of the funds, with some members not welcoming the use of even mobile money in the payment of their benefits, or the use of other third-party agents, as they think that the small charges levied, even though we agreed with the third-party service suppliers that those should be borne by the corporation. But because of the low literacy levels, they think directly or indirectly, in a way, they will be charged for the cost of the service. So the low literacy rate for members, and this we hope to also improve on this challenge by improved sensitizations and try to have some much more targeted service also. Finally, ladies and gentlemen, the relatively low salary level of the corporation compared to our sister state-owned enterprises is a challenge, which we hope to look at through a proper study once our finances can sustain same. Now that there is a vaccine for the COVID-19 and vaccination take-up is increasing, I do hope that the activities of the economists, our own, the Gambian economy, not left behind, will pick up, improvement in business confidence, increase in employment levels, especially in the better quality jobs area. Because the better quality jobs area would lead to better contributions for the members and the corporation as a whole. Finally, ladies and gentlemen, before concluding, I want to mention that Mrs. Davis Toure, who has been a member at the Social Security Board since 2018, has served us diligently, and we would not hesitate to recommend for his re-election, and we wish him good luck in case he is interested, and wish good luck to any new elected representative in case you, the NPF members, so desire. I wish you successful deliberations and elections for another 3 years of membership, 2021 to 2024. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Mr. MD, for that strong statement. We now have an overview of the National Provident Fund. I think we should use this opportunity when we have most of our members of the National Provident Fund are gathered here today, and our Director of Operations will talk to you, tell us what we encounter, our challenges, and so on and so on. We'd also welcome you to ask questions after his presentation, and also suggestions to make this fund, to take it into higher heights. I'm sure you must have heard the MD has alluded earlier on that the process of the Act, the Social Security Act, is ongoing. So we welcome suggestions for this fund so that we can carry it over. So Mr. Edward Gomez, Director of Operation with the Social Security and Housing Finance Corporation, will give an overview of the National Provident Fund. Mr. Gomez.
Good morning, MD. Good morning, colleague directors and other staff from Social Security. On behalf of the management team, I take this opportunity to welcome all of you here. The purpose of the presentation is not to lecture you, but it's to draw your attention to some of the things that we need to really take note of when it comes to handling issues that are related to the National Provident Fund. My name is Edward Gomez, and I serve as Director of Operations. Now, what we will be looking at is the National Provident Fund, but before we go into the details of the National Provident Fund, I would just like to draw your attention to some of the facts about the corporation itself and the funds that we run. Now, this is the table of content of the presentation. We will begin by establishment of Sshfc, the schemes that we run, coverage, then we narrow down our focus on the National Provident Fund, the registration process in the National Provident Fund, issues of contribution towards the National Provident Fund, and the final aspect is the benefit aspect, because the money belongs to you. Because a lot of people would always ask, how about if contributions are paid on my behalf, and so happens. What happens to the money? So here we want to emphasize to people, just to guarantee them that the money belongs to them and nobody else. Even when you are not around, you have nominees, you have survivors. So by implication, the money belongs to your survivors and not the corporation or not anybody else, but people who are directly connected to you. Now, the corporation itself was established by an act of parliament in June 1981, but operations only started in January 1982. Now, at the level of the corporation, we run 4 different schemes. We have what we refer to as the Federated Pension Scheme, which we call the FPS, the acronym, the National Provident Fund, the NPF, the Industrial Injuries Compensation Fund, the IICF, and the Housing Finance Fund, the HFF. Now, the Federated Pension Fund, it's a defined benefit scheme which provides protection to employees of quasi or semi-government institutions. Here we normally refer to them as parastatals. But notwithstanding, the same law also gives powers to an employer who so desires to register his or her employees under the FPS, that is a private employer, to register his or her employees under the FPS if he desires, but with certain conditions, that is, being in a position or accepting to take up the responsibility of paying contributions on behalf of the employees, and also ensuring that the laws governing the FPS would be the same laws that would apply to him as the employer and the people that are covered under the scheme. The National Provident Fund here is a defined contribution scheme which provides protection to private sector employees, people who work in the private sector. But again, the same law also gives people the right to register on a voluntary basis. If they so desire, they can register on a voluntary basis. And what is, later in the presentation, we will see how that is done. Then we have the Industrial Injuries Compensation Fund, which by implication is the largest of the schemes that we run, because it does not only cover employees of the private and public sector, but it also covers employees of both central and local government. So by implication in terms of numbers is the biggest. And what it does is it provides compensation in relation to work-related injuries. Then you have the Housing Finance Fund, which facilitates the delivery of shelter on a sustainable basis. That is the focus of the Housing Finance Fund. Now we proceed by narrowing down the presentation on the National Provident Fund, which is our focus today. The application. When we say the application, we mean who and who is covered and who is not covered. Now here we have employees whose businesses are registrable under the Business Registration Act of 1973. It also covers employees not specifically exempted from the provisions of the Sshfc Act. It also covers citizens of Gambians employed by diplomatic missions or international institutions of equivalent status. It also covers employees or employers to whom before the coming into the force of the Act, the State Pensions Board Act applies. So all these are people that are covered. So if you fall under one of these categories, automatically you are covered. Now we look at the exemption. Who are those that are exempted from being covered? Civil servants, to whom the Pensions Act of 1950, Cap 137 applies. By implication, we don't cover government employees. The government run their own pension scheme, so we don't cover them. Workers below the age of 18, I guess this is in accordance with international law, because before the age of 18, what is expected is they are either, or the child is expected to either be in school or somewhere learning a trade. I guess you have this convention that you call Child Labor Convention, which prohibits using children in the labor force and so on. Then you also have workers above the age of 59. Here, why are we exempting them? It's because the retirement age here is 60. So if I have clocked my 59th birthday, then there is no point registering me, because before you finish doing the process and so on, maybe I would have been due for retirement. So that is why that category of people are, those who fall under that category are exempted. Then you have what we call casual workers. Now here, I would like to emphasize that this is where we have the biggest problem with employers. And the reason is their definition of casual workers and our definition of casual workers do not match. They tend to be divergent. Because to us, casual workers are people who work on a piecemeal basis. That is, for example, I have a laptop that is broken. I want to get it sorted out. I seek for the service of Jane, who I know can sort it out. Then we discuss, we come to an agreement that he's going to fix the laptop, and I'm going to pay him a fixed amount of, let's say, $500. He fixes the laptop. I take my laptop, give him his money for the services rendered. So under normal circumstances, it won't take a month. So that is why we always emphasize to employers that individuals or employees who serve for a period of a month and attract a salary, a month and above, and attract a salary should be covered under the Act. But our biggest challenge has always been employers getting people under the payroll for months, sometimes years, 2, 3, 4 years, and they still categorize them as casual workers. Now, under our definition, they are not casual workers. So that is something that we should take note of. Now, registration, the forms that are used, the NPF1 and the NPF2. Now, what are some of the details that are required? Now, if you look at these details, they might look very simple and straightforward. But from experience, the people who deal with registration, they will tell you that they face a lot of challenges regarding the information that people supply. And they range from names that are not consistent with the names on the official forms of members, to giving bad details that are not accurate, to giving nominee details that are not accurate, employment details that are not accurate, and so on. Now here, when we say the name in full, we mean if I am called Edward Gomez, I am strictly Edward Gomez. Edward is different from Edo, because the spellings are different. Bubakar is different from Babukar. The spellings are different. Now, in some cases, some people will spell Njai, Njai, and Jie. You have to take note of all those things, because what you supply us on the form, we expect should be exactly what is on your official document. Let's say your ID card, for example. These things, they should correspond, because when they don't correspond, there is a problem. Now, the permanent address, date of birth. Now here, what we have realized over the period is we've seen people reducing their dates of birth. And that is obvious, because when we are young, we are energetic to the point that we tend to negate the fact that there will come a time that we will grow old. And with age, you can't defy age, because when it comes, it takes its toll on you. And sometimes the mind would desire to do some things, but the strength will be lacking. So if you reduce your age at some point, you will begin to say, no. You will begin to know that your body cannot actually keep in line with the challenges of the day. So that is the time you will come to us and say, no, I had provided a wrong birth date. So which is a problem, because you cannot be born twice in the year. You can never be born twice in the year. So we have to be very, very realistic in providing the dates, our dates of birth. Date of employment commence and dates admission into the scheme. Sometimes people tend to confuse these two to the point that, or particularly in situations where they are late in registering. So they take the date of employment or date of membership into the scheme rather, to be the date of registering, which is not correct. Because date of membership into the scheme should be the date of commencement of job. Even if you register 10 months after that, it does not matter. It should be the date of commencement of job. So we have to take note of that. The salary details here. Again, there are issues. Because if I connive with Social Security to understate my salary because I want to maximize my take home, it's a problem for me because directly it will have an impact on my take home at the point of retirement. Because let's say if my contributions were supposed to be, let's say 500, and because I have connived with the employer and understated the salary, and my contribution that is coming in is 300, it means every month 200 is short. So by the time I retire, you can imagine that 200 times the number of months that I have worked. That will be a considerable amount. So we also need to be very, very careful here. And sometimes we know that employers can do that. You will excuse me, I am not directly trying to accuse you, but employers can do that because they want to maximize their profit. Then we have the marital status, whether you are single or whether you are married. And this one is particularly important for female employees or for female members of the scheme because the scheme provides for a facility for you to retire on the basis of marital grounds. So here, what can happen is, if at the point of registration you were not married and later on you got married, you just need to regularize the process. Just write to the managing director and say, I was not married and I was called so. Now I'm married and I want to be addressed as so. Then when it comes to the MD, we will act accordingly. Then we regularize the process. So that if at some point you want to retire on marital grounds, then that will be possible. So here some people will always question why not men. I don't think it's bad for men to benefit on that too, because it's not bad for my wife and I to decide that hence I'm getting a lower salary. Let me retire and take care of the home and she continues working. Maybe the only implication will be I will have to behave in the house. If I misbehave, I'll be taught some bitter lessons. Then you have the nominee column, where you list the names of people that are your nominees. Here again, we understand at some point, maybe at the point of registration, you might not, maybe the people who you will term as your nominees would later on change in life. Let's say I was not married and I'm registering. Obviously, my mom and dad and my siblings would be my nominees. But if I am married, I'm expected to regularize that column and include my wife and my children if I have any. And the nominee column, we have what we call a nominee verification form that you can always use to update this column every time the need arises. There is no limit. We have a form that you can use to do that. Then there is also what we call voluntary registration under the National Provident Fund, where an employee who is not subject to the Act may voluntarily wish to register. Now, under these circumstances, what is applicable, what he or she is expected to do is apply to the managing director, and upon approval, then he will be registered as a voluntary member and decide how much he pays into the fund. And I think the lowest that is payable can be as low as $100. Then we move on to the contribution level. If you register, what happens next? You are expected, or your employer is expected to be paying contributions on your behalf. And the contribution rate is 15% of basic salary. Now from that 15%, 10% is paid by the employer on behalf of the employee, and 5% is deducted from the employee's salary. Now you can find these on section 40, subsection 1 and 2 of the Social Security Act 2015. Then there is also a section, section 40, subsection 3, that gives the employer the power to deduct contribution. That is the 5% from employees. Now, this is particularly important because we have seen situations where employers will say, why nangu ma register ko, so munuma ko deduct. Lan moy nangu, lua la. That is why the act is giving you the power to deduct 5% from my salary, basic salary, before you pay me towards social security contribution. So from today, you as the employer know that you are empowered to deduct the 5%, irrespective of the fact that the employee accepts or not. If he is not prepared to accept, then let him or her look for other options of job, but not in your institution. We are not saying go and dismiss them, but what we are telling you is the act is giving you the powers to deduct, as long as they continue to be employees under your institution. Payment of contributions. When you deduct contributions, how do you pay them? As per the act, there are prescribed forms that we refer to as schedules that you can use to, or that you should use to pay your contribution. If you don't want to use those forms and you want to design your own forms, what we would desire is you make sure that you replicate the information that is provided for on those forms, so that you provide all that is required on the form that you have designed by yourself to enable us do what we are expected to do when we receive the returns from you. Now, these payments, if you go to section 40, subsection 5 of the Act, it says there are prescribed forms that should be used to pay contributions. And those forms they're either referred to as the NPF 3 or the ICF 3, or either the NPF and ICF 8. You can use them depending on how many months you pay. But again, what is important here is the form requires you to provide some information when you are paying, like the names of the people you are paying for, their salary details, the 5% deduction, the 10% deduction, their social security numbers, the month that you are paying for, and the name of the contact person, the telephone numbers. So all these should be replicated in the form that you want to use if you don't want to use these ones. They should reflect in that form. Now, when we talk about late payment of contribution, there is also a situation where people don't pay contributions on time. And as per the Act, it says contributions received after the 15th day of the month should attract a penalty or interest charge of 2.5%. Now, this is in section 43, subsection 1. Now, some people will always question, why do I have to pay a penalty charge? Contribution la. Them a busy one or so. But there are rules, and rules are meant to be observed. Now here, we want to take this opportunity to tell you that we don't charge penalty because we take pleasure in charging you extra money. Remember, as per the Act, when the Chief Executive was talking about payment of interest into members' account, which happened, the last time it happened was in 2015. Now, if we are to credit your accounts with interest, then I think what is pertinent here is you ask yourself, where is that money coming from that the corporation is using to credit interest into my account? Now, obviously, the answer would be, if you pay on time, we invest, and the returns would be what is used. So if you don't pay on time, as a replacement for that loss of income on investment, so it is obvious that we should levy an interest element so that we compensate for that loss of income, because we cannot claim to say, because let's say Babukar Nyan Enterprise have not paid on time, or they have not been paying contributions on time for 2015. So apparently for 2015, we are not going to credit any of his employees with interest. We don't have that power to do that. We are still obliged to. So there has to be a way that we will use to compensate for that. Now, when contributions are paid, then what happens next? That is benefit. And remember, when I began, I said the money belongs to you. It does not belong to Edward. It does not belong to Social Security. It does not belong to the Gambia government. It belongs to you. So what are some of the benefits that are paid? Normal retirement. This is at age 60 as per the national law. So when you retire at age 60, what we do is we calculate, that is the cumulative of 5% deduction from you over the period, plus the cumulative of 10% paid by the employer on your behalf, plus the interest accrued over the period is what is combined and paid to you as benefit on a lump sum basis. That is what happens. Then we also have the withdrawal benefit, which is premature withdrawal, which is also permissible by law. And it says at age 45, you can proceed on withdrawal. You can proceed on the basis of withdrawal benefit. But again, as per the 2015 Act, it says if you need to, or if you have to proceed at age 45, which is still premature, you either serve a cooling off period of either 3 or 6 months, depending on your age. But again, as time progressed, we had another regulation, that is the 2021 Social Security regulation, removed all that because we understand, you can bear us witness that there were a lot of issues when Corona came in. And definitely you wouldn't expect somebody who's lost his job because of the pandemic, you ask him to go and wait for 3 or 6 months, because definitely that will be adding fuel to fire, because the guy already has a home, he has a family that he needs to take care of, and so on. So out of that realization, management decided that it was pertinent for us to work this out with the relevant authorities, that is the Line Ministry and the Ministry of Justice, to make sure that we have a regulation that will totally do away with that cooling off period, so that when you submit today, we process. So it was possible. Then you have the survivor's benefit. This is the benefit that is paid to nominees of a deceased member of the scheme. Now, that is why I earlier on emphasized on the importance of the nominee column in the registration form. And here what we do is when we process, we pay to either the curator of interstate or recent, we have also been paying through the Kadi court, because we understand the greatest majority of our population they are Muslims, and some of us would want what we leave behind to be administered through the Islamic principle. So that is also permissible nowadays. But here again, sometimes you hear people say, Ninyange de hamun dara, and so on. Sen bokay hamun da, nyungi am halis fufu, and so on. Here what we want to appeal is, if you are a member to the scheme, there is no secret behind the whole thing. Let your family know about it. Your wife and children, let them know that you are part of this fund, so in case that comes, which will always come by surprise, they will know that there is something for you, and they will know the appropriate channels to take to make sure that they get the benefits paid to them. So unfortunately, most of us would think that our wives or our families should not know anything about us. You have the invalidity benefit. Now this is paid to a member of the scheme who, to the satisfaction of the managing director, that by reason of permanent physical or mental disability is unable to further engage in gainful employment. that is through sickness. Now here again, we emphasize that what should be provided should be a medical certificate from a recognized medical practitioner. Now yesterday, somebody asked whether, why are we not considering the traditional healers? But what the response we gave was, unfortunately, the law fell short of recognizing that side. So what is required is a medical certificate to say by nature of your illness, you cannot continue engaging in gainful employment. Then there is a second one that we need to look at, the challenges. The challenges. Now here, I've divided the challenges into 3 categories. The challenges faced during registration, those that are faced during contribution, and those that are faced during the processing and payment of benefit. Now I divided them into 3 categories. Now during registration, what are some of the issues that we face? The issue of eligibility, who should be covered and who should not be covered. Now here I already, in the previous presentation, I talked about this issue of casual worker. So it is good we as employers know who is to be covered or who is not to be covered. In the event that we are not sure, it is not bad to get in touch with Social Security and seek clarification so that you are on the safe side as to who you should register. Now, we also have these issues of understatement of salaries. Sometimes these ones come up when we are processing the benefits to pay. That is when the claimants would come up and say, no, suma salary nekut only, nangam ladan feyeko. And when we contact the employer will also give his own version. So obviously we will be expected to establish the facts before we actually proceed and process. So during that process, valuable time is being lost. Then you also have this issue of conflicting information, giving information that is not accurate, or information, you give information on the form that is not in line with information on the official documents. Payments of contribution, the issues, non-compliant issues, the issue of not complying. Some of us, employers would always sit back and say, man jisuma kujoge Social Security, so monuma fe. I think here what is important is we want to be very clear by stating that it is not stated anywhere in the Act that we should come and collect contributions from you. We are doing it because we try to facilitate the process. So in as much as we are trying to facilitate the process, it is also good you help us. When we help each other, then things will be easier. So it's no harm if you don't see an inspector come by your side, you just prepare everything and go to the nearest branch or you pay. Or you go to the nearest bank and you pay through the RTGS, and what you need to do is maybe you just send somebody with the RTGS advice slip and the schedules, tell the person, go to the nearest Social Security office and pay this and get my receipt back to me. I think that will help you and at the same time help us. Then there is also this problem with time of payment, which of course will attract penalty. So we should be aware that if we don't pay on time, we will incur penalty charges in respect of late payment. Then there is also this issue of contribution payment through the RTGS. There are problems with it. Some of us employers would go to the bank, do our own transaction, and we stop there. If we do that, it means the process is not complete. The process is only complete if we go to the bank and do the transaction, receive the RTGS advice slip from the bank, take that RTGS advice slip, attach it to the schedules, that is the form bearing the names of the people that we are paying for, take it to Social Security, submit it, then be receipted. That is when the process is finished. If all that is not exhausted, then it means the process is incomplete. During benefit processing, what are some of the problems that are faced? Claims lodgement. Now here, sometimes getting the necessary documentation is a problem because we also rely on the documentation to review the application to determine whether the applicant is qualified for the payment, then we process. So if some documentations are not forwarded or they are not submitted, it means we cannot start processing. We cannot start processing. So what's the role of the employer? The role of the employer is to really coach the beneficiary, that is the person retiring, so that they know what to submit. And also on the form, it is the role of the employer, the last employer, to sign. So if these things are not done, it becomes a problem. And most of the time, the problem that we face is mostly common with retirees who are not literate. That is those that are not literate in English. So it's a problem. So it's our responsibility as employers to guide them through the process so that they get their money. Then what's the role of the retiree? To provide the necessary attachment, like the passport size photo, a copy of either the ID card or the birth certificate, and so on. Then when all that is done and Social Security is submitted to Social Security, our role is to vet for eligibility, then we interview, then process and pay. Thank you.
Excuse me, I have a question.
We're coming for that. Yeah, you your turn. Yeah, okay. Questions are inquiry and suggestion, as I said. Any suggestion, any proposal to the National Provident Fund, you are highly welcome. Okay. Let's start with that.
Good morning. My name is Suleiman from the Latin Farms. Hello, I've been listening to what you have been saying. You have complained about some of the problems you are encountering, but you never complain about the problems that the employees have encountered. Because for the past 10 years or so, my people have not been receiving their statements. We have not been receiving our membership cards, and these have been big issues at our place. I remember 3 months ago, I went to New York because we have paper issues. When I was engaging these ladies, the first question they asked me was, why we are not working this? You are collecting from us, paying into Social Security. We don't have any card, we don't have any confirmation that we are paying this into Social Security. So we will not come and work for you until we have Social Security card. So at the end of the day, Social Security is also giving us problems because our employees will not have that confidence to come and work because they are thinking that at the end of the day, they are just collecting their money, but taking their monies. And with this time and age, I think there should have been a mechanism whereby every employee could just use your cell phone and just go into your system and know whether your money is actually paid into your account or it is not paid into your account. But what we are encountering now, the biggest problem we are encountering, as like I'm saying, traffic farm, is we are registering people every day to Social Security. But for the past 5 or 6 years, we have not received one Social Security membership card. We have not received our statement for the past 10 years. So at the end of the day, what are our employees going to think about that? And our biggest issue is, like you rightly said, your biggest problem is the illiterate workers. If they come for their forms, then it becomes a problem because our definition of casual workers is those people who work for a period, let us say because we are doing farming, they work for 6 months, they will sit at home, then the next 6 months they come. Somebody will be working like that for 10 years, 15 years. When he comes for interview, you ask him, he will tell you I work for 10 years. But because there are gaps in the form, Social Security will now ask us to go and provide all this information. Because what is actually happening is, these people, during their time, they are not receiving their statement. So when it is time for them to come and collect their money, once you ask them 10 years, they will tell you 10 years. Whereas in that 10 years, they just work for 6 months in every year, they don't work the other 6 months. So these are giving us a lot of trouble. So I will appeal, like the managing director is here, something needs to be done so that employees will sit in their offices, they will sit at their home, use their cell phone, because it will not cost Social Security anything. Now, I'm using my cell phone to go into a system to know how much is my account. You could have given us a portal at our place whereby once we are registering people, we'll be able to, because one thing I know is every company has a unique registration number. We could have used that unique registration number and then add the next number to it so that we'll be able to register people at our own level and tell people this is your registration number. And they will be able to use their cell phones to be able to access their funds to know that this is their fund. The other thing I want to say is, when you look into the housing scheme, most of the people who are given land with Social Security are finding it very difficult to do construction on their land. Because imagine somebody has to be paid the mortgage fees and also at the same time has to pay for his rent at his house. I would have suggested Social Security could have come with a solution whereby they would have used part of their benefit to build their houses for them so that they can move in and be able to continue working. Because what is actually happening? After working for 10, 15 years, when I retire, they give me my money, I cannot even build a house. That means that that money that they are giving me has no benefit for me. Right? So, only doesn't appeal to Social Security. Thank you very much.
Okay, Mboch. My brother, I know you were going to come with those very, very, very tough issues.
Sorry, the last thing is that, sorry, I just remember one thing. You are talking about late payment of contribution attracts fine. For the past 5 years, there was no interest paid to anybody. Why are you charging interest? Why are you charging fine for late payment of 2 days? And if calculating the fine, and if calculating the fine, if the act says 2%, the 2% should have come with the number of days that you delay. It cannot be I delay for 1 day, you charge me 2%. Somebody delay for 30 days, you charge me 2%. So there is no encouragement in that thing. There should have been 2% by the number of days that you delay. But it cannot just be outright 2%. And for the past 5 days, you have not paid my people anything. Last month I delayed for 2 days. I was charged for 11,000, which I think we will go to the court for me to pay.
Mboch, my brother, you have given me a very, very, very big task. But fortunately for me, I have my boss here. You know, when people begin fighting you and you know that definitely this one is beyond me, you go behind your boss so that your boss will also come and do something. And also, fortunately for me, some of the issues that you talked about, I will not deliberate on them. I will refer them to the acting director responsible so that he will deliberate on them. That is the issue of cards and the issue of statement. I will leave that to the acting director of research policy and planning to deliberate on it. Let me just talk on the issue of your definition for casual workers. That is, your definition is they come and work for 6 months. After the 6 months, they go. I would have thought, or let me rephrase it to say, it would have done you justice, Mbuj, if you had referred to them as seasonal workers, just like the hotels do, so that you know that during the rainy season, when rains are pouring, that 6 months, you need people to come and do the work. And after the 6 months, when rains are gone, they don't, you do away with them. So that what will happen is after the expiry of the 6 months when the rains are pouring and you need their service, what you do is you simply walk to Social Security and pick what we call a termination form, so that you terminate the services of all those people that you are doing, all the people whose services are no more needed after that 6 months, so that we know that from this particular month, let's say, for example, let's say from April to, let's say, where the 6 months will end, the services of those people are no more being utilized. So in effect, that would mean at our end, we won't expect contributions to be received on their behalf. So to me, I don't think these are big issues. What is happening here is, to me, I'm seeing it as an issue of lack of communication between the relevant parties. That is your side and our side. I think if we had known this, we would have advised you properly, or maybe if you would have, if you had asked and sought advice, we would have been in a position to advise you properly. But henceforth, let me advise that you start employing that approach. At the end of the 6 months, take termination forms and terminate the services of all those people or whose services are no more needed, so that you are on the safe side. You also talked about the issue of penalty charges, the difference between two. Why don't we have a difference between two days late, for example, and 1 month late? Unfortunately, this is beyond us. What the Act says, the Act just says if an individual, or if contributions are not received after the 15th, 2.5% interest is levied. The Act did not go forward to say, in the event it is late by 2 days or 3 days, you have to prorate it. So these are some of the loopholes that are in the Act. But I will also advise, like my CEO said, we are in the process of reviewing the Act. These are things that can be compiled, and they will be looked at to see whether it is definitely important to start prorating, to make sure that number of days of late payment would be used to levy interest. To me, it's a genuine point, and I think DCA will take note of that, and maybe we will do further consultations from here. But like I said earlier on, let me invite my colleague, Mr. Nyan, to talk on the issue of statements and cards.
Good morning. Bush, we agree with you 100%. There's no need for us to deny or say anything. But just that, well, when you say 10 years, that one is something that I may have to. But we are working on it. For the cards too, we are also prepared. But we also know the nature of the task or your job, what your job entails. But we will assure you that we will work on your answer. I'm sorry for the delay or anything.
Mr. Board, can I just add some more details? Because, Mr. Board, were you here when I read my opening remarks? Yeah, I mentioned about the, maybe you missed it. I mentioned about it, that is our intention.
I have this including your predecessor's time when we have the meeting.
No, but
I had the same thing.
Okay, it's fine, okay. Again, okay, at least you have.
I will not bring it once it comes out. Let's bring it once it is in the system.
Yeah, no problem. And I think for the registration also, Jan did not mention it, but we have already bought a machine, and it should start immediately. Yes, the card printing, so we should announce it. The machine has been bought, installed, and it is operational now. So they are printing, so the backlog would be clear. I think we should give them this information.
Yeah.
Yes, and on the issue of the interest charges, the pro rata, that is, I think we need to look at that. That is strange. You cannot, if I miss my payment for a week, I cannot
it's really a genuine one.
And
DCA
also,
should take note of it.
on
Yeah.
the interest over the years, I want to assure everybody that it is being currently looked at, especially for the years 2019 and 2020. I read the deficits and the surpluses over the years between 2016 and 2019. There are draft figures for now for 2020, and it is showing positive. We will be speaking to our external auditors to see, because they would normally say that for consistent application of your accounting policies, you might not be able to deviate depending on how the interests were being applied pre-2015. So that is being looked at and ensure that definitely a minimum interest is paid for members as soon as possible. So you get that assurance, please. So, thank you.
Yes.
We want people to stand up and give your name and the institution you are representing, please.
Thank you. Good morning. My name is Usman Fati. I represent UTG. I've gone through your presentation, but with all fairness, I think the interest should definitely be paid. Now that government, you have a commitment from government to pay 868 million something. Yeah, 10 million. And that's a commitment from government, and they have started paying. So I think with all fairness, the interest from 2015 should be paid, because an investment without returns is meaningless. Definitely, an investment without returns is meaningless. What is the essence of contributing Provident Fund to Social Security when there is no returns, or when there is no profits, or when there is no interest? I think with all fairness, that needs to be looked at from 2015 today. Thank you.
Okay, let me just say something here. For the sake of time management and saving time, I think the issue of interest have already been talked about by the MD. We are looking at it, and action will be taken. So let's just take it at that, because I know that the commitment that has been given by the CEO will not be a commitment that is just said out of the blues, or maybe for the purpose of just entertaining you. I can confidently tell you that whatever is being declared here is going to be thoroughly looked at by management, and the appropriate decisions will be taken, and the decisions will be implemented. I think Mboj also said something about housing, the issue of housing, and the allocation of housing, some people not having money, and so on and so on. Just to be brief here, what we do is we have a policy in place for mortgage. That is, there is a policy in place for mortgage. If you have a mortgage with Social Security, you have the option of applying to the managing director to use 30% of your savings against your mortgage. But let me emphasize that as per the existing rule, it says the mortgage should be a mortgage with Social Security. A mortgage with Social Security, so which means it has to be in one of the housing projects. Now again, some people would go to the point of saying, I have a savings with Social Security, why am I not being given a house? Now, let me be clear here. What we do is when we have projects, allocation is open to all qualified Gambians, irrespective of the fact that they are scheme members or not scheme members. So that is what we need to take into consideration. It is not, the projects are not for scheme members, they are meant for qualified and needy Gambians. So it is good we take that into consideration so that we are not tempted to say, well, I have an account with Social Security and I don't have a house. Now here, let me go further to say, I can also confidently tell you that even in-house, the way we treat outside applicants is the same way we treat our own staff. You will be surprised that if I tell you that we still have employees in-house who still are not benefiting from the housing scheme, that will be strange to you, but that is the hard fact. The MD can attest to that. So when it comes to housing project, we try to be as fair as possible for all Gambians, because we are not serving a particular group of people. We are serving the nation as a whole.
Thank you. Good morning, all. My name is Provident. I'm representing Standard Chartered Bank. And thank you for organizing this session. And hopefully, in future, you will send an invite to member institutions at least a week notice. And I must applaud the MD with his optimistic opening remarks. Important figures mentioned, and I just wanted to ask, because these are information that are being asked by the members that we represent, where can we get this important financial information so that we can always refer to when needed? You also mentioned the numbers from 2016 to 2018 in deficit, and 2019 to 2020 surplus. What are the figures? What are the factors of this improvement? And the second question is with regards to, I think the gentleman from Bradville picked on it, the digital, and you did mention that it's coming soon. But he also mentioned that it was something that was hard before. So is there a timeline with regards to that? Because it's very important at the day and age that we are in. And I don't think I'll be very fair if I don't mention Edward's accessibility and responsiveness. Taking full advantage of that. And to be honest, look at him looking at me. This is the first time he's seeing my face. But I always make sure that I use the opportunity, and I always overuse the opportunity. Whenever social security issues comes up, he's the first point of contact that I reach out to. And he has been always helpful. Thank you.
Thank you. I'm seeing you for the first time. That's why I'm looking at you. We spoke on phones several times. Good to see you.
Mr. Bajan, I think you raised some very pertinent, important questions. Thank you for the compliments. First of all, the annual report and activity report of the corporation. I was actually telling my corporate team that it's here and it should be available in an activity like this. Okay, and it's online. He's also reminding me that it is online, so you can have it on our website. However, I think we can do a smaller version, especially perform and distribute it during the event, because that normally happens in the AGMs of the bank.
Yeah.
During the event.
Yeah.
So this online you can have it now as we speak. And so we will look at try to have a bridge version in future activities. And I can also say that the reason for the turnaround for now in the finances of the corporation is not only one or two activities. You remember the industrial challenges that happened in the corporation some 3 years ago. That was as a result of, there were many factors, but one of the reasons was stringent changes in some of the control measures, some parts having been reduced from staff. So all those like going to the pilgrimage, for example. And there were other benefits, those which were stopped. And those were some of the difficult things that led to the industrial action. There were, some people thought that major redundancies are on the way coming. And all those, although positively impacted in improving the finances, but negatively also caused industrial relations deterioration in the enterprise. However, there is, we have improved the relationship, or even though also, and we did not reinstate the abuses that used to happen. I think it's a matter of improvement in the man management and explanation being clear as to the reason for taking some of the decisions. That has led to improved industrial climate. And to come to what Mr. Moore raised, that my predecessor mentioned it, and results did not happen. But I can tell you that on my table currently, a consultancy contract is being reviewed, where through a public tender process, an IT firm is being recruited who will assist us in the confirmation of our requirements, supervision of a tender process, recruitment of a vendor, and delivery of the social security management information system. I don't think that happened with my predecessor. Luckily, the contract is currently on my table and we will be signed in the next 1 week. That shows the urgency that we have in this. That was why I mentioned it in my speech and thought that you were not around. But we will definitely move, not only with theory, but hopefully with results also. Because we cannot understand, it's not proper, you contributing your statements, and you don't even have statements. My colleagues will tell you that I told them, no, the status quo cannot continue. We have to give our statements, and cards, a printer has been bought, and the printing of cards, the backlog of all declared, hopefully within the next few months, if not weeks. So, Mr. Bajan, did I leave out anything? I think those were.
Well answered. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yes.
Good morning. This is actually I'm representing Gambo. Today I'm representing Gambo. So I must first of all thank the management because I think quite a lot of improvements have been done. Even though we realize we still have some few things that needs to be in place, because we realize that people like me are many here, people don't really understand most of the things that we are talking about here. So just to say, I think this forum will be able to address all that. So my suggestion is, if we can have some stakeholder forum between the institution and the contributors, I think that will really help in, dealing most of these issues. I think that's mainly what I wanted to suggest. Secondly, maybe that might have to be when we have the stakeholder forum, because I really don't understand if we are paying 5% for the National Provident Fund as contributors, direct contributors. Why we are not represented on the board? I was made to understand there was a representation for contributors and the employer. I don't know whether that was changed or what happened. Because of my information, but that's something we can discuss later. So this is just a suggestion that I have.
Okay.
Thank you.
Jalal 3, then we answer Jalal. No haram mu jël pour mu gaaw no jël a couple then you answer benn yoon.
Good morning. My name is Jalal, and I have a question.
Your institution, please.
Uncle Sam.
Thank you.
We are asking a question in relation to the ICF. Now, as we all are aware, employers are contributing
percentage towards the contributions or the money that comes into the social security. I am therefore suggesting here that instead of having one representative into the board, I am suggesting we should have more than one. Since we, the employers, need to have more say, because that money, the National Provident Fund, is more, as I think, than any other contributions that are coming to the day. Thank you.
Okay. Okay. Somehow tricky ones. The lady, I forgot the name anyway. Gumworks, the lady from Gumworks talked about sometime this issue of representation of the board at the board. I don't know whether my colleagues who have been there long before me are aware of the fact that contributors at some point used to have representation at the board. But as far as I know, I've been there close to 16 years now. Okay, my colleague is going to talk about that. Now, we move on to this issue of IICF. And let me begin by saying, all of us here know what an insurance policy is. We know what an insurance policy is, because either one way or the other, some of us who are fortunate to have cars have insured our cars. And we know how the premiums work and how compensations are given. How compensations are given. The ICF is an insurance policy, and the insurance policy is strictly limited to compensation in respect of injuries arising out of work. In respect of injuries arising out of work. In respect of injuries arising out of work. I'm emphasizing that because that is the key message there. It says, when you sustain injuries as a result of an activity that is related to your work, then you are entitled to compensation. And the compensation is based on the degree of your injuries. That is what the policy says. So the other thing that we need to distinguish here is we have to draw a distinction between a medical policy and a work-related injuries policy here. You said you have an insurance policy where or you are being obliged to provide cover, medical policy for your people because they are working for you. As far as the ICF policy is concerned, the ICF policy did not extend compensation to the side of natural sickness. Compensations are only limited to injuries arising out of work. So if we are able to draw that distinction, then we are safe, we don't have any problem. We don't have any problem. You are an employer, it's unfortunate you are spending more. Social Security as an employer, NAWEC as an employer, GAMWORKS as an employer. It's unfortunate they have to spend some extra thousands of dollars or millions to provide for a medical policy for their staff, irrespective of the fact that they are part of the ICF policy. Because the unfortunate part of it is the ICF policy that is in place does not provide care, that is medical care in terms of natural sicknesses. That is the unfortunate part. Maybe these are things that we can also look at as food for thought.
Amount also needs to be mentioned.
Yes, I'm coming to that. Now, the other part that you talked about is the issue of where is the money going, which is very pertinent. Mr. Jallo, let me give you an example. You have an insurance policy. You have a policy, because I know you have a lot of cars. And for all those cars that you have, you pay premiums for each of those cars. And the premiums that you pay do not hinge on the fact that, on the condition that your car has to be involved in an accident. You pay a premium to cover for the car, and that premium that you pay is money coming from your pocket, and you are paying it, but you don't pray that your car is involved in an accident so that you benefit. You don't pray for that. Though you are spending your money, but you don't pray. And at the end of the day, maybe sometimes when you are lucky, none of your cars is involved in an accident, but yet still the insurance company does not reimburse you. Because as far as I know, if there is any form of that arrangement, if there is to be an arrangement like that, I don't know, I have heard that Takaful have a system like that. But this insurance policy we are talking about does not have an arrangement that says if there is no compensation for a particular company that is paying a premium in respect of employees, then the employer should be reimbursed at the end of the year. There is no clause like that. But again, no.
Where is the money?
The money, of course, is in the pool. When monies are paid, let me tell you, the premium is $15 per employee. No, Mr. Jallo, let me come. I'm still trying to clarify. The premium is $15 for the month for each employee. Maximum payable is $15. When these monies are paid, they are put into a pool. And Social Security is the custodian of that money. When compensation is to be done, or when there is an accident, the whole process of working out these things, doing the investigation and doing the calculation is done by the Commissioner of Labor. So when they finish, they just provide the documentation to us and say to us, this is what you should pay. So remember, the amount you pay is $15 per person. Maybe at most what you are paying for your company, in some instances, will be less than $10,000 for the whole month. But in terms of paying compensation, it is not limited to what you are paying as your premium. Because compensation, as far as I know, when it comes to cases like fatality, what is paid for a single fatality can take contributions for the, maybe for the amount can be more than what you have paid over the whole period. So this is what happens. It's a pool. The money is put into the pool, and when we are paying, we draw from that pool and pay. Okay, MD will talk about that. Let MD come in.
As far as the question of where are the funds is, I want to remind you what we told Mr. Bajan of the Standard Charter. It is, you can access it on our website. However, our published financial statements are here. We have the figures received as income on the IICF. On the IICF between 2015 and 2019, the payments made from the fund over the years, and the surplus per year. In each of the years, 2015, there was a surplus of $3,800,000. 2016, a deficit of $100 million. 2017, a surplus $7,210,000. 2018, a surplus of $5,132,000. 2019, a surplus of $6.8 million. So they are in the bank accounts of the Social Security and Housing Finance Corporation. Thank you. Thank you.
Maybe the ladies, please. Okay.
The question from Gambox. I've whether the members are not.
The contributors.
Contributors are not. That is why we are here. If you are here for GAMWORKS, you are not here as GAMWORKS employer. You are representing GAMWORKS employees. We cannot call everybody to come. So that is why we are saying that each employer will have to send in a representative. Because the act is very clear. The act is saying that any member for an MPF will have an MPF member representative at the board. And that is, he's representing the employees of the MPF. So yesterday we did for the employees of the FPS, and today we are doing for the employees of the MPF. So if you understand that is why even if you are out of GAMWORKS and you are in another employer, as long as you are under the Provident Fund, working for a Provident Fund employer, you are representing the employees of the Provident Fund. Yes. So you have been represented. Like C is representing the employees of the MPF because he's an employee of the European Union. Yeah. So employees.
Yeah, EU is a contributor because they are paying 10% on behalf of her. So they are technically the contributors have a representative at the board.
That is employees. Yes.
Yeah.
But they are only paying them. Anyway, I think let's just forget about it now, and then we finish when we have the stakeholder vote.
Okay. Okay. Yes. The ladies. Huh?
I want to say on ICF. Sorry, just coming to the question raised by my brother there with regards to ICF, that they have some employees who are involved in accident and they don't benefit from the ISF compensation. I think it's important for them to know the procedure and who is qualified and who is not qualified. So the ISF scheme, we have about five departments who are part of the scheme, and each has a role. So Social Security, the funding is going to be the trustee of the fund, or it is to make sure that we synthesize, and also whoever is involved in accident, we pay a compensation. So the Labor Department is part of the administration of the fund. So if accidents occur in the workplace, the accidents should be reported to the Commissioner of Labor, not to the Managing Director of Social Security. That's where the claim processing starts from, not from the Social Security. And accidents are processed if we are aware. But if they are not informed, how can your employee who is a victim be paid a compensation from the Social Security? So it is important for people to take note that the ISF fund is only meant for a victim who is involved in accident while carrying a duty which is related to his work. And in any accident, when accidents are reported to the Commission of Labor, they investigate. And in doing that investigation, they are not angels to know exactly what happens to the victim. They have to liaise with the employer. If the employer can tell you that this accident happens as a result of his or her work, then in any accident there should be a police report too. Then they will take it from there. And whoever is got accident will advise what was an clinic. And after the treatment, you are expected to provide the Labor Department with a medical report. There is a lady, a police officer, who normally stands at Wagon Factory. She was involved in an accident in New Year's Eve. So she sustained very serious injuries. And the police did not know that this lady should be paid a commission from the Social Security. There was a day I was with one of the police officers, they were complaining the Social Security. They are good in collecting contributions, but when someone's involved in accident, they will not come to their aid. I told them what happened. So they showed me the picture of the lady who was involved in accident, and in fact they told that some of the superiors at the police EPF, they don't even take care of the lady. I told them, can you please advise the lady, if she is admitted in that hospital, let her go back and collect relevant documents from the medical authority, and then go to the Labor Department and report. Then the Labor Department will take it up. They will advise you as what to do. And that's what she did. And yesterday she came to my office, she told me that she has been following the medical authority to provide her with a medical report, what's the problem. But thank God, she said yesterday, they were able to convene a medical board meeting, and her issues were discussed. And they asked her to come back home yesterday, but the secretary will write a report and then hand it over to her, of which she will return the report to the Labor Department, and the Labor Department will write it on the Social Security with relevant documentations, and the sources will receive and verify, and then we will process and then draw a check in the name of that lady. So we will only process a claim if we are informed. So it is our responsibility as employers. There are some employers that have staffs involved in accidents. They will not even take care of them. They will not even inform the relevant authority that is responsible. So it is our responsibility. Hence, the money is not coming from you as the commissioner is going to the victim. It is also to pay. Your responsibility is to report the accident to the labor department, and then if all the documentations are intact, then they will send it to social, so they will process and then pay the victim a compensation. Okay? So thank you very much.
Yes. Yeah, I think it is clear and straight to the point. There are procedures to take. Know the procedures, follow those procedures, and we pay.
Memona to Junista Kamara, representing Ocean Bay Girls and Sunday Chota, West Africa Leisure Group. I must say thank you to the management and team for deliberating such one-to-one. It's a given opportunity, and I think we should all make very good use of it, not only sitting here coming up with suggestions, but trying to come up with recommendations and going back to our grassroots. That's to do with our employees, because many times we've observed, especially us, the hotel workers, that we're good at attending forums, but to be able to go back and dilate and get to the grassroots, it's a big issue. That is what leads to some of these questions that are coming up. I'm sorry, I'm not trying to counter at anybody, but it's a collective responsibility. I think we should be able to manage, and we should be able to report and give back to those that we are representing. I have a recommendation. We're in the hotel industry, and being in the hotel industry, we've got employees, and I am one of those employees also, that have struggled with issues many times. Hotel workers are the people that have seen the most change of hands in terms of ownership. Today we will be with a company, another day it's moved or leased or sold to another person, and we tend to see where employees have been working for years and ages, and they are without a proper contract. Their monthly contributions are deducted, and when they want to make those claims, they go to Social Security and realize that is a huge gap. And the Social Security hasn't got much to do, because they only have to work on what has been given to them. And they will ask the employee to go back to the employer, and those employees will tend to go back to the employers and find out that those employers are no more in existence. And those gaps are left. The deductions were in place, but the employees tend to suffer. They're left vulnerable, and nothing could be done about it. This was a question I asked on the last forum. It was not well addressed. I'm not saying we should address it today, because we've seen an improvement, like a colleague mentioned. Every institution should register the last employee of your institution, or else your contribution for the month will not be accepted. But I think with the review of the act, or whatever is on review, I don't know whether the labor or whosoever department is responsible can give a mandate to the Social Security to be going on random checks within institutions to be able to monitor. One, you made mention that you've seen employees who are negotiating with employers to be able to reduce their contribution so that they can have proper take-home. I think it's a collective responsibility. If we're here to guide and make sure we're protecting something for somebody, it should be done wholeheartedly. I think the Social Security should have a mandate where they should walk into institutions and be able to do random checks according to what has been given to you for the month. You cannot take a whole day to do that. Just few files. Go to the payroll, go to the file, compare the type of contract the individual is having, whether it's balanced with a 5 and 10% contribution. And I think the Social Security then should be able to pursue that organization to say this is something that is illegal, and it should. I think we should not just be coming here talking we should also, we also asking the employers to do certain things. The Social Security should also take up certain responsibilities. I think it's not just to be sitting and seeing figures, but to go and check whether the figures that are given to you, they're accurate. That is one recommendation. The second one also, whosoever is going to represent the employees in the National Provident Fund Board, I want to definitely appeal that information that are given at that board level that also needs to be filtered to stakeholders. There must be a way of communication. It's either through email or they see there are other modalities. We have the apps with WhatsApp. We have so much that is happening around. They made mention that the 2015 Act, the issue of issuing of payments for people who are redundant, was looked into and create some level of flexibility. Instead of 6 months, they were processed immediately. But that news is just coming to some of us here now in this room. And I think those informations are very vital so that we can be able to serve our employees right. Because if I have an employee who is desperate and wants me to sign, and I'm denying the employee to say you've not reached the 6-month period, and the information has not been filtered to us, I think something needs to be done. Those are just recommendations. I thank you all for your kind attention.
Okay, let me just quickly, the issue of verification of payrolls and so on. We have teams that go out every day. This has been a process and it has not stopped, it is ongoing. Inspectors are going around, they go around every day, they go to employers, they check for details of registration, they check for details of contributions and so on. But what is important here is, it is also important to note that in as much as they are going around to do their verification and so on, it is the responsibility of the employer to provide accurate information. Because those inspectors coming, they don't know what is in-house. So it is only when you provide what is in-house that they can verify. So if you give part and you don't give part, it becomes a problem. And that is why earlier on I said there has to be collaboration between the Social Security institution and the employers, because we are all working towards achieving a single goal. Together we work, together we achieve the desired goal. And at the end of the day, everybody will say Social Security is good. They will talk good about all of us. You understand? So that is what I meant by we have to collaborate. It's not because we are sitting down. They go out. But the problem we have seen is sometimes when they come out and they ask for information, they are giving part and they are not giving part. We have seen cases of people having different payrolls. They will surrender one and not surrender one. How do you know that these are the only people there, or some people are left behind? You wouldn't know. So that is for the employer to open up and be realistic and give out what is there, real time. Because that is what we need. Now, when we come to this issue of saying we sit down, we don't sit down, we go out. And that is why I said, if we are facilitating for you, also facilitate our job for us. Because it's very important. Together, then we can achieve the desired goal. That is what we are asking for. We are not asking to sit down, or we are not saying we will sit down. We go out every day, we have vehicles. And even sometimes when we don't plan to go out and an employer calls to say we need you for X, Y, and Z, we try to get a vehicle to go to the employer and sit with him or her and discuss the issues that are coming out. On the side of dissemination of information, I think it's important. Yeah, we need to open up. Both parties need to open up. Now, MD has already given a commitment that we will open up, and we have already started doing that. DCA has just said the accounts are on the website. These are things that are new. They have never been happening. Now they have just told us that you go to the website, you will find the figures for the audited account zip. That is an improvement. Though we are not saying we are perfect, we still need to work on a lot of things, but that is a commitment that we have given. But our plea is also give a commitment on your side as employers to be very open to us by providing the necessary information that we need to make sure that everything is on track, so that on the day of your retirement, you will not come and we begin to say there are problems with your bio or financial data. If that is done, we can guarantee you that today we get your claim within your claim document. Within 5 working days, we will tell you come and get your money, or the bank will send you a text message to say the transaction has hit your account. We can guarantee that. Because we are doing it for cases that are perfect.
I think you should mention about the gazetting of the rules, the new rules. That happens for a month.
Yeah. Yeah, the issue of gazetting of this thing about people who are redundant paying them, there was a process that we followed. Because when the appeal came, we looked at it at management and we said, we realized that there is a procedure we have to follow for us to get to that level, so that we are able to pay. We followed the procedure, and when that was done, we started receiving and reviewing, and we had made sure that every case that we receive and reviewed and realized that the person is not qualified, we write back to the person and copy the employer to say individual X is not qualified because of X, Y, and Z. So we are, on a daily basis, we are trying to improve. Maybe some information elapsed you, or maybe you could not get.
I'm sorry, I'm not just cutting. What I'm saying is not to point or shine away from responsibilities. Some of us are major employers. I am working for Toyotas, and I have more than 400 employees. I would not appreciate not getting certain information, and the staff deeming it as if I don't. Some of them, when they are desperate, it's like the papa when I'm home, Alice. You know, they say all sorts of things, but that's part of our job. But what we're saying, if you've got those level of flexibility, that information must be able to filter to employers so that they can be able to act rightly.
Yeah, you are right.
That's exactly what
Yeah. It was.
Hello, good afternoon. I'm representing GT Bank employees. But this question is more for myself, you see. My greeting to Alaji Tampelu and Alaji Alajinias. Okay, now that time is just around the corner, I worked for an employee before who are part of the pension fund. Now I'm working for another employer who is part of the provident fund. Now these are two funds being managed by the same institution. I've asked questions before. Is it transparent? Because I worked for it 5 years, you know. Is it transparent? Those funds of pension, is it transparent with the provident? Or is it just a wasted 5 years?
Maybe you give her a chance because she has been up for a long time. The lady. Yeah, let's take that one, then we answer the two and we are done.
Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Mrs. Sala, representing Medical Research and Social Unit, the Gambia at the London School of Hygiene and Tropical Medicine. Regarding the app that you mentioned, how soon should we expect this app to be functional? And the reason why I'm asking is, for this to be functional, there has to be accurate data. I just don't know how possibly you can go about doing this when the data is not available. And the second one is on the board web. We've always been having board representatives, but I feel I have not been fully represented. Because in the first instance, I feel that after every election, the Social Security should endeavor to write to every institution, introducing the new board web, giving us contact details, and if possible, create a platform where we can raise our concerns, vent our frustrations, come up with suggestions where possible, and have feedback from the board. And thirdly is regarding the elections. I will appreciate if the elections are properly or better organized, whereby we will get to know the candidates beforehand, and give them at least a month so that they can campaign properly, and then we hear what they have to offer. Exactly exactly, and so that we can make better choices on election day. Yeah, but just giving us 15 or 20 minutes or whatever, there's no way we can do better
Okay. Okay. I think yours were suggestions which DCA is going to take note of. They are really very, very good suggestions. And we will take note of that. And we see.
She asked the question about the comments. The process is going for 18 months. Hopefully, by the end of the 18 months,
Yeah.
the project will be completed and it will be rolled out fully. Yes. That is the Social Security Management Information System.
Yes. The other one, is it Mr. Ndao? Mr. Ndao, the issue of transferability. Moving funds. No, these are two different funds. They cannot. You cannot. So what you do is you claim here, you claim there. You are still guaranteed. We'll pay you all that you have with us on the two sides. Huh? Yeah. You claim from both sides. We will do that. And I just forgot to mention one thing. On a final note, this issue of delay, we have what we call Project 59, where we write to employers and notify them in advance of the people that are supposed to retire in the next 12 months. So what we do is we send them the names and their dates of retirement. So we expect the employers to come forward and work with Social Security to regularize. Okay, okay, I know it's news. So that when you get the letter, you come forward and work with Social Security to look at the bio and their bio and financial data to see whether there are issues so that it's sorted out. So that when the person retires, come no go hale ni wahe, new process, new fela sahali. Some people are saying, when did it start? We only write to institutions with people that are retiring. If you don't have a staff who is due for retirement, obviously we don't write to you. Of course. So on that note, thank you very much.
No, here, it's okay. It's okay. Thank you very much, Mr. Edward Gomez. He's the Director of Operations at the Social Security and Housing Finance Corporation, for that presentation. And also thank you, members, for your questions and contributions. Next on the agenda is the report of your representative of the National Provident Fund, Madam Janet Davis of the EU. Janet.
Good afternoon, everybody. Good afternoon, Mr. Managing Director, Mr. Tambedu. Good afternoon to members of the National Provident Fund here present. And a very good afternoon to all other persons attending this meeting. Thank you. Okay. We really had a long morning, and it's now afternoon. So I'm going to make my presentation short, because some of the points I wanted to raise have already been raised by the Managing Director. Because as it is, the National Provident Fund is like a family when it comes to the board, and most of the issues we are well aware of and each of us can say something about it. So, my name is Janet Davis, and I've been in the board for the past 3 years, representing the National Provident Fund members. And I must mention that I'm the only female in the board. Okay. I must say I am humbled and thankful to be given this opportunity to present a short report about the National Provident Fund. It is important to note that when this board was instituted in 2018, when we came on board, there were issues at the Social Security. There were some disturbances, and those issues needed immediate attention from both the board members and the management of Social Security. So we could not at that point in time start working on what we were meant to do. But eventually, that situation was brought under control, and the board took off in earnest, and we were able to deal with issues pertaining to the functioning of Social Security, the institution, and the funds, notably the 3 funds that are being held under Social Security. Okay. As most of us are already aware of, the National Provident Fund, I say, was a struggling fund during the previous years. The reason I say it was a struggling fund, because executive orders were being received most of the time for funding of programs, activities, and things like that. And the monies that were used for that were mainly from the National Provident Fund, which obviously is the biggest fund. It's bigger than the other funds, so of course had more money than the other funds. So these executive orders had created problems with the fund, because of course I can't say that the funds were being taken out illegally, but then these were funds that were being requested for via executive orders. And when it comes to issues of executive orders, nobody can refuse, sort of. We know, all of us know what would happen at the time. Now, I'm just reading from a script, right? Because I must mention that I got the information yesterday afternoon. Not that I received the letter from Social Security yesterday, but this was a problem within our system at the EU, whereby the receptionist held onto the envelope and never gave it to me. But anyway, I'll just manage and do whatever I can. Now, when these executive orders were being received and funds were being disbursed from Social Security, this brought about panic among members of the National Provident Fund, and people were not too sure about their future, meaning when they reach the retirement age, whether they will get anything at all because of the rate funds were being taken away from the Social Security. There was an active group called active members that were really concerned and were sort of like representing each and every institution or company that were registered under the National Provident Fund. And they held a couple of meetings to find out the situation and to know what was happening with their funds. That group, I must say, were quite active. I don't know whether most of you knew about that group, but that group is existing, and that they are concerned about the funds, where the funds are going to and what's happening with the funds. Fortunately, this the requests that were coming in all the time, came to an end, and Social Security, the National Provident Fund, was gradually picking up. Not until the ugly head of COVID-19 surfaced, and it affected the funds again. Affected the funds in the sense that most hotels were closed, other businesses closed down, Some employees were declared redundant, some were put on half pay, and as a result of all that, contributions were either not forthcoming or they were sort of like dwindling down. So, COVID almost brought the world to a standstill, including our little Gambia. So, as the pandemic raged and brought about havoc, so many people were vulnerable, especially some under the National Provident Fund. As I mentioned earlier, the National Provident Fund is the biggest fund, and we do have a lot of people there. I can say that we've got about 174,000 members under the National Provident Fund. Out of that, we have 6,400 plus employers registered under the National Provident Fund. And we do have some 1,109 inactive employers, or we can just say that they've closed down. Surprisingly, we do have some individuals, just as Mr. Gomez mentioned, who contribute voluntarily on their own to the Social Security, the National Provident Fund. They do contribute to that. So, because of the struggle that the National Provident Fund was going through over the years, it has already been mentioned by the MD that it was a bit impossible to be paying interests. But now with the funds coming up again, gaining momentum, interests will be calculated and paid, and the calculations will go back to 2019, MD, if that's right, 2019, 2020,
yes,
for the interest.
I said that depending on the advice of the external auditors.
Yeah, okay. So, when this COVID-19 hit in, and we had this vulnerable members under the fund, Social Security stepped in by helping the vulnerable ones. Most of the time, these, the vulnerable ones are people who are entirely dependent on their salaries, on their income. So Social Security stepped in by putting in some procedures in place, by like allowing people affected to apply for early withdrawals. And also there was this possibility of retiring early, withdrawing at the age of 45 and over. That was done. And as Mr. Gomez mentioned, the cooling off period was also reduced just to be able to assist people under the fund to be able to make ends meet. Now, I wouldn't want to keep you waiting again because I am sure the elections will take some time. But then I just have a few points to put across. And this is one to the employers that you should ensure that when deductions are made from the salaries of your employees, that they be paid into the fund almost immediately or within a reasonable limit of time, because as Mr. Gomez mentioned, it will attract some interest for late payments. Another point that I would like to raise, I know it's happening, maybe some of you are not aware of it, but it's happening, that some employers do deduct amounts for the National Provident Fund from the salaries of their employees, and they do not pay the contributions. They might not be many, but it's something that is happening. And I would advise that they stop that, I can call it an illegal practice, because taking monies from somebody which you're supposed to save for them, and you're not doing that, it will always end in a very pathetic situation whereby when the individual reaches the retirement age to go for the benefits, only to find out that there was nothing contributed. I think somebody raised something like that. My third point is to the employees themselves. I will say that you need to be proactive. Many people mentioned here, 1 or 2 people mentioned about the cards and the social security number. If you know you're registered under the National Provident Fund, make sure you have your card. Make sure you have your social security number. In that case, you will save yourself a lot of trouble. Be proactive. Do things. As the saying goes, you put your money where your mouth is. But I will change that. I will reverse it and say you put your mouth where your money is. Because you need to know where your contributions are going. And you need to be sure that at the end of the day, you do get your benefits when you reach the retirement age. So, as it is now, I will just cut short and say that if we follow the right path now concerning the contributions of Social Security, we might not have the need to restart the wheel again. As I said before, in one of the forums, and I'm repeating, Social Security's business is everybody's business. The monies that are being kept in Social Security, especially under the National Provident Fund, don't belong to Social Security. They belong to the individuals that have been contributing and looking forward to have their benefits at the end of the day when they reach retirement age. So with that, I will close and say thank you to all of you for listening attentively, and I wish you all a very good day.
Thank you very much, Madam Davis, the NPF rep. Now we go straight to coffee break. It's already outside in the lobby. And after, when we converge again in 30 minutes, we do the elections.
By the management of Social Security and Housing Finance Corporation. I have gone ahead. I really did not want to preempt you, but I have 5 nomination forms. So I hope you will negotiate and come up with maximum of 5 candidates. But before we begin, since the Social Security Act let me just read something here. As to membership of the board, where is this again? Okay. The act says the governing board of the corporation. The governing body of the corporation is the board of directors consisting of the chairperson, the permanent secretary ministry of the ministry from whom shall be the vice chairperson, the managing director, permanent secretary ministry responsible for lands, a representative of the employees of the corporation, which I was privileged to serve somewhere in '97. F, a representative of the employee of members of the National Provident Fund. This means that we are electing an individual to represent members of the Provident Fund. I want to ask the membership a question, and this would be a decision because the membership is the highest governing body of the members of the Provident Fund. If a member that is elected is incapacitated, dies, reaches retirement age, are there any provisions for a by-election or whatever? If not, what is the position of the membership in these categories that we will do to ensure that we continually have people that are representing us? Do we call for an election? Because it's every 3 years as it stands, but what happens in the interim? Whether somebody is incapacitated, whether somebody reaches retirement age, whether somebody passes on. Do we wait until the 3 years before another election is called? Or what do you think is the, what do you think as members before we get into elections? Because if we are in, like yesterday, it was basically the institutions or the employers that had to bring in a representative. So GRTS is sitting on the board. I believe if the individual moves out of GRTS, GRTS can still nominate somebody to continue to serve. But that's not so with the Federated Pension, the National Provident Fund. So let me hear your remarks quickly. I will just take about 3, 4, 5 comments. Quickly, to the point.
I think people still need to be represented, so when that happens, I think it's by election.
Okay. So any of the categories, a by-election, somebody else? Somebody? Yes? Okay. 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 Any other contribution? An extraordinary Congress to choose. Yeah, or even the person travels. Okay, that's another thing. So you are saying to call another election? Okay. Somebody else?
Mr. Chair, I want to ask if the Act is being silent about this that you are talking about. And if so, I think it has to be, the suggestions that are coming from people should be captured in the Act. And if you see the extraordinary Congress is something that needs to be in the Act so that when issues like this happen, and we can go straight to that and we call for it.
In fact, this is very interesting. Is it chapter 7 or so? Section 7 says, 1, the members of the board who are not ex-officio members shall hold office for 3 years and may be reappointed for 1 more term. A member of the board, 2, a member of the board may resign from office in writing, addressed to the president through the minister. Where for any reason a vacancy occurs in the membership of the board, the managing director shall notify the minister who shall arrange for the appointment of another person to fill the vacancy of the unexpired period of members of the term. That sounds a bit...
That's it.
No. But wait, how can the minister choose for us, the members, who should represent us? That's why there is a gap in the law. And we are asking the members.
But it's a law, so why don't we amend it? When we amend it, then that's where these suggestions will come in.
So we can only amend it. We cannot amend it here.
No,
but what is the consensus of the membership? So that consensus can be taken to the board, and the board will take it to the minister to subsequently to parliament for amendment. So, but the membership must have a say. If there is a vacancy in any of these categories, what do you do?
The last point you read.
Which one? The vacancy.
The last point you read.
Where
a vacancy occurs.
Where for any reason a vacancy occurs in the membership of the board, the managing director shall notify the minister who shall arrange for the appointment of another person to fill the vacancy for the unexpired period of the member's term of office.
What's your interpretation?
He shall arrange for the appointment. No, wait. If you say the minister can arrange for the appointment, it's not for the election. He says for the appointment. So if the minister gets up and chooses somebody that he likes, is that not an appointment? Okay, clarify. Do we have, is the Social Security legal advisor here? Is the legal advisor? Yes.
Then you appoint.
Yes.
So that person is only referring to the people that are the board members that are appointed, like the permanent secretary.
Okay.
Like the chairman.
Good.
The permanent secretary.
Good.
And then the minister, the permanent secretary, local government.
Exactly.
These are appointees.
Exactly.
Yes. It's not just
So, but the elected members there is silent about it.
Can I come in here?
Yes, go ahead.
It is obvious that when you look at the act here, there are procedures. If there is a vacancy for an elected member, I think the procedure is the managing director will notify the minister, who is the line minister for the corporation. Of course, with the existing procedure, the minister will only advise him by writing to say, you go through or go take the necessary steps available to make sure that we get a replacement. Which means for an if it is an elected member, what the MD will do is to arrange for a session like this to make sure that there is an election, but the minister will not choose.
Okay. That is your interpretation. You see, this is the interesting thing. You have given two different interpretations from Social Security side. The thing is,
What is for the elected?
Okay.
What is for the appointed?
No, but wait. But what it says here, it doesn't distinguish between appointed and no appointed. It says, wherever for any reason a vacancy occurs in the membership of the board, the managing director shall notify the minister who shall arrange for the appointment of another person. So it doesn't say for appointed authorities, it says for any vacancy in the board. Some are appointed, some are elected. So for the elected ones, what is the procedure? You are assuming...
There is an existing procedure which says there has to be election. The managing director is conferred with the power to select somebody who will sit at the board.
So you are giving us an assurance that if we have a vacancy by retirement, death, travel, or whatever, the managing director will call a by-elections.
Obviously, that is the existing procedure.
It's not documented. All right, if we have, so whoever is going to represent us, because I'm a member of the scheme, but I'm impartial in the elections. Whoever is going to represent us, we must make it as part of our demands before next election. The representative, who is our president, would have to deliver on this one. Let it be amended and corrected and made clear. So whoever is coming to campaign, make sure, let them tell you that they will do. All right. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, I have in the attendance list, observation. Yes. All right.
Okay, thank you very much. I am now standing as an observer.
Independent observer.
Independent observer. For the association, Social Security Association.
Yes.
Because we already have a representative from Gabon.
Yes.
So I'm wearing that hat now.
Yes.
Okay, based on that, I think I want the membership to understand one thing.
Mm-hmm.
We need somebody who has an interest of the Social Security contributors, because we have our funds there.
Okay.
When it comes to paying, they have to pay us our lump sum, and then we go. So there is no other trying to make things nice. You need to understand.
All right. Okay.
Understand? So the thing is, the person who is supposed to be there has to have the interest of the contributors.
Okay.
We have to come back to the association. As I said, everybody would know, we have a constitution that we have already approved. That's the association, and we are working with it, and we want to work with the management on that.
Okay.
Because really, we have been
shortchanged.
So many things have happened with the National Provident one, we all know.
Okay.
And cannot continue.
All right.
Okay?
All right, thank you.
The third one now is there is no women. There is no woman in the board.
Hey, okay.
So I don't want to look like a feminist. But really, we also need to have a representation.
Okay.
I rest my case.
You have prejudiced the these women. Okay. You know the thing of gender equality only applies in some areas. If a thief comes to the house, that's where I will stop. Well, in the register, we have 61 people that have registered. But from what I can see, there are some organizations or institutions that have 2 people represented here. So I'm going to ask you kindly, if you are eligible to vote, to come forward, and those that have duplicates, let one person go to the back. And we will leave a line so that we know the people that are eligible to vote. We will count the people that are eligible to vote, and we will issue voters' ballots. They are specially designed ballots. They cannot be photocopied. They cannot be duplicated. These are authentic. Anything that is not like this will not be accepted. It will be an invalid vote.
So, a question, please.
Yes.
Do I have voting right?
Why? You are in social
I'm a member. I'm a voluntary contributor.
Of what?
The Provident Fund.
Representing himself.
Representing myself, I have an account. I pay into the account.
Okay. Your case, we have to.
Okay.
Why do you want to disrupt my elections? Okay. So I ask. So let me have my ballot box, please. We have. So please, those that are eligible to vote, come forward. Those that are not eligible to vote, that means the Social Security staff, you will have to please forgive me to go to the back so that I know that I am dealing with the voters and we can count the people that are eligible to vote and make sure we issue ballot papers accordingly. So if you are eligible to vote, if you are duplicating, if an institution has 2 people, sorry. If an institution has 2 people, please just get 1 representative here. Let the next person go to the back. No. To sit in the front seats. You have to come to this side since you are an observer. So come, please. Are you all of you voting? If you are voting, come forward, please. I want to have a mark between those voting and those not voting. Yes? Okay, all the people voting, please come this side. All those. Huh?
This side or in front?
No, come this side. All those that are voting. Yeah, you are voting.
Yes. So what's it? We are a member.
Oh, Provident vote. I thought you are evidence.
We are both.
Sorry? I cannot hear you. No, an individual. It's an employee's representative. You are representing, every office has 1 vote. No, Social Security as an institution pays NPF. So they have 1 vote. And he's representing Social Security. Yes, sir.
I'm representing
You are representing? New Vision.
Yeah,
yes.
However, I am not a contributor. I am retired. Am I eligible?
asking whether he's eligible to be elected. But he has, listen. No, you are eligible to vote as an institution, yes. But as a candidate, okay. As a candidate, you need to make. So all those that are voting or eligible to vote or be voted, please come to this side. Just, there are seats there so that we can know that these are the people voting. If you are not voting or not eligible to vote, stay here. So yeah, there is a seat here. Just, yeah, to the back. You can just make sure okay, just make a line between the two places. So there is a seat here. There is a seat there. There is at the back too. You can take the back. Once we just have a clear-cut vision. Now, because I cannot trust the register, have all of you here registered? All of you here? You know, the thing is, some of you have written like some doctors. Okay, we will send out the ballot papers whilst we open now for nominations. We have printed nomination sheets. As I said, I am an optimist. I think we don't have more than 5 candidates. If we do, then we will just manufacture papers because we want to restrict the freedom of expression. But in this case, it's not the more the merrier, the less the merrier, and the faster the election. So we have nomination forms. We now open for nomination for representative of the National Provident Fund to the board. Madam Secretary, don't give people to pass. Give everybody individual. I want a free, fair, transparent election. Ladies and gentlemen, the nominations are open for the representative of the National Provident Fund to the Board of Social Security and Housing Finance Corporation. Please raise your hands. These people on this side, raise your hand, nominate one person. You will nominate, you will write the name of the person, the organization they are coming from. The nominee will sign as endorsing their nomination that they accept. And then you who has nominated, you will put your name and sign. It has to be seconded by somebody. And then I myself will sign, and that will be endorsing the nomination. So the nomination sheets, let's have nominations, please. Yes. If the person you want to nominate, because the nominees are going to have to speak. If the person is not here and cannot speak, it will be left to the membership to decide whether they want a voiceless representative. I cannot say no, but I don't know whether it's illegal to vote in absentia, but the membership would have to decide whether they want a voiceless candidate. All right, nominations. This is the thing that's interesting in Gambia. All the hands are down. She's qualified, so she can be nominated. No, you nominate. If the person agrees, the person will say, I agree. If the person declines, that's why there is a place for them to sign. So you nominate. If the person hears their vote. Okay, sorry, we have 53. So check and confirm that we've given 53 ballots. 53. All right, so 53, not 54. We are expecting 52. Yes, sir.
I am nominating the Fadi.
Say your name and where you are coming from.
Okay.
And yeah.
I am Ali Hydra. I'm representing Chef One Express.
Okay.
I am nominating the Fadi, the CEO of Supersonics Microfinance.
All right. Do we have somebody to second Mr. Yundu Fati? Okay. Yundu Fati. Somebody to second? You are seconding Yundu? All right, then I can give you the forms to fill. If you don't have a pen, I have come with pens. I have come with pens because, but this is an underfunded independent electoral commission. Make sure you return it. There is another election coming, so from social security. You know, I'm a member. I don't want our funds to be depleted. We have suffered a lot, so we are trying to. Any other nomination? Yes, sir.
Yes. Bauka Kajan, Standard Chartered Bank, nominating Memnat Junisa, Osun Bay, and Sunset Hotel.
Okay. Memnatu is nominated, seconded by you. All right. Please fill the required places and give it back. Another nomination for representative one here.
I am Lamin Sshfc, Forex. I nominated Nyangado, Social Development Fund.
Mr. Nyangado is nominated, seconded by. If Mr. Nyangado is not put in his, who is Mr. Nyangado? You are okay with the nomination, sir? Yeah. Okay. Then you are second. All right. I have 2 more nomination forms. I hope you people don't take me to 6 nominees. No, we can manufacture. Well, you know, I believe you people. We will not have 18 political parties here. It's not possible. Somebody, three parties. 53 parties. 53 political parties. Okay? Everybody one vote. Yes, sir.
My name is Bala Mendavo. I nominate Ajisen Ka.
For who?
Ajisen Ka.
Ajisen Ka.
Yeah. Ajisen Ka.
Ashimi Ka. You are okay. Okay. Mrs. Ka is nominated. Sir, you are seconded. No, she is technically not part because Gamworks is being represented by someone. Yeah, I'm sure they can swap. Except Gamworks is changing their representation, then she can be eligible as yes, sir.
Someone mentioned the issue of the current outgoing representative.
Yes.
The guy who mentioned that if he or she is willing to nominate her.
That's what we said. That the people you nominate and it's left to the person to say whether they are coming in or not. All right? So we have 2 gentlemen, 1 female. Any other nomination? Ashimi. So Gamworks, are you negotiating? Okay. Okay, Ashimi declines. So it is democracy. Any other nominations before I close? I am eager to close. All right, close. We have one more before they tell me that I am a dictator.
My name is Anna Kassel from Gambia Electrical Company. I nominate Fatal from Access Bank.
Fatal from Access Bank. You see these women, they give them opportunity. You say equal rights, now you are turning it down. 2 women have turned down. And there is only 1 woman potential candidate. All right. There is 1 other nomination coming there. Women power.
I said my name is Bank. Can I ask MRC if she's interested in the nomination?
Who?
Kati Cisse. MRC.
Kati Cisse, MRC is being nominated. Okay, gentlemen, let's forget this thing about gender equality. These women. Well, ladies, take note. We have given you 3 opportunities. You have turned it down. All right. So any other? In the absence of any other, silence please. In the absence of, I am yet to receive the third nomination form. Sorry? Sorry, who is talking? What are you saying? Somebody is saying something. Yes, somebody wants to nominate. Yes, who? Who do you want to nominate? Suleiman?
Suleiman Gadvi.
Mr. Moy says his hands are filled up. You have two wives? Two wives. But you have capacity to go to 4. Okay, Mr. Moy is declaring. Well, ladies and gentlemen, let's close the nominations for now, if you allow me. Are we okay if I close? So nobody accuses me. Well, the nominations are closed, ladies and gentlemen. We have 3 candidates. The first candidate, Mr. Pakeba Nyangado of Social Development Fund. Sorry, Mr. Nyangado should sign to show that he is agreed. Let me wait for the signature so I can do justice to that. Thank you. Nominated by Mr. Lamin Sise. Hey. Mr. Jangado, where did you sign? No. Mr. Jangado, you are taking the position of the... I will declare this an invalid nomination. Sorry, who nominated Mr. Jangado? Okay, can you sign this? Mr. Jangado, you sign the signature of nominee. If not, I will declare your nomination invalid. Yeah, Mr. Jangado should sign here. Okay? I will state who has nominated him and then we move to the others. Because the candidates, please prepare yourselves. You will come and make a 2-minute, maximum 3-minute speech as to why we have to get you elected. Sorry. Okay. Sorry. For those of you that have signed the nominations, Mr. Nyangado is nominated by Mr. Lamin Sise and seconded by Mr. Adam Adrame. Please, can you, Ibrahim Adrame, can you state the institution you are representing for records purposes? After your name, just state the institution, and I will do the same for the rest. Mr. Njunu is nominated of Supersonics Microfinance, is nominated by Ali Haidara and seconded by Lamin Sane. So Haidara and Sane, can you just put your institution next to your name for the records? And then we have Woman Power, Memunatu Junisa Kamara of Ocean Bay and Sun Beach Hotels. Mrs. Kamara, we are missing your signature. Nominated by Mr. Babukar Bajan, I believe of Standard Chartered. So you just put that. And then seconded by Madikan Jobate of where? Okay. Please just put the organizations you're from. This is for records purposes. So if the elections are contested, Social Security will have enough evidence to... Okay, thank you. Now, ladies and gentlemen, we will ask the nominees to come and tell you why... Who is that? So somebody has the form. Just give it to her to sign. They will come and tell us why or tell you why you have to elect them to represent you and what they will do differently. Okay? So, ladies and gentlemen, we will now, we say women first, but I am unconventional because, as I always say, one woman is equivalent to about 5 to 6 men. So, even with one woman in the board, she can take care of all the rest of the men. So, the woman will speak last. I would ask
I support that.
you know, this chairman is different. I would ask Mr. Pa Keba Nyangado to come and state what he will do differently and how he will represent the membership. Mr. Nyangado. Well, put your hands together for your nominee.
Okay, I want to say good afternoon to all of you. Of course, when I was coming into this room, I never thought I would have been nominated to represent the membership of the National Provident Fund. But again, I mean, this is a duty and a responsibility for all of us as Gambians and as members of the National Provident Fund. Of course, as a rural development specialist, I have been in this type of fora for quite a while, and serving people who have been underprivileged in one form or another is quite an important and enormous task to undertake. And indeed, in trying to deliver to the expectation of those that nominate or you trying to represent, I think one important thing that whoever marks this position should focus on is consultation. Consultation and communication is everything. Because people make views, they make concepts about issues only because of their perception. And perceptions are born by how we communicate and what we communicate. So for that matter, I think whoever represents people at this level should be a good communicator. He should be somebody who should be able to see him or herself as a bridge between those that nominate or he or she represents and the level where he or she sits, because not all of us can sit in that position. So for that matter, I mean, I think if I'm given that opportunity, I will try my utmost to deliver to that, to their expectation. And of course, one or two things that I have had as a member of the Social Security or National Provident Fund over time is that I think there are some reputational issues which are a problem of communication, because many a time you talk to people about Social Security, one of the responses they would give or some of their views about Social Security is that they are not doing as much as people feel they should be doing. And I think, as I said before, all that is because people are not communicating the right messages at the right times, and because of all that, people misconceive. And in order that we don't misconceive, I think communication is a must. We must be able to, I mean, get the right messages, put it out at the right times for us to get the right support from whoever is behind us. So I wouldn't want to bore people with a lot of talking. I'm a social scientist, but I think with these few words, I think whoever is interested in me representing would actually vote for me. I thank you all.
Thank you very much, Mr. Nyangado. We'll now invite Mr. Njundu Fati of Supersonics to address the membership.
Good afternoon, and thank you, Ali and Co, for nominating me. Firstly, I'll give you a background who I am. Njundu Fati, CEO Supersonics Microfinance. By training, I am an IT engineer. I have a wealth of experience in digital technology and computerized systems. I started my career at Social Security. They actually sponsored me for my master's degree at Bristol University as the Systems and Database Administrator. So I have an insider knowledge and expertise in Social Security. And I believe my records at the institute, at the corporation, will speak very loudly of itself. I am an entrepreneur. Started Lasting Solutions, which is one of the leading ICT companies as the CEO, and thereafter, we also started Supersonics Microfinance. Apart from being an entrepreneur, I'm also an expert in financial management and financial inclusion. I have worked with GT Bank as the head of technology. I have worked with IEC in 2001 and 2006 general elections as the database consultant. I've worked with IFMIS project, which is a World Bank project at the Ministry of Finance that implemented the computerized system, financial budgeting, payroll system for the entire government. I am a member of the board of directors of Gambia Chamber of Commerce. I'm actually the treasurer. I was a member of board of directors of GAMTEL and GAMCEL, and I was actually the sub-board chairman of Finance, Investment, and Procurement Subcommittee. So I am coming with a lot of experience from financial management, from technology, and the MD, when he was talking, I think there are a whole lot of IT related platforms that he mentioned that are in the plan to be implemented. And I believe my expertise in that area will be of value to the institution and the members. I have a lot of experience in corporate governance as well. Presently, I am treasurer and board member of Gambia Chamber of Commerce. And I've also been the vice chairperson of GAMTEL GAMCEL. So in terms of experience, I have actually a whole lot of experience that I would add to the institution. I believe that the role of this particular position is very, very important because social protection is important. Our social dynamics are changing. So in 10 years from now, 15 years from now, people would have to rely on their contributions to the Social Security Fund for their security. So the protection of those investments, and not only the protection, but to make sure that those contributions are properly invested is important. And as an entrepreneur, I think my contribution in that area also is going to be very, very important. So not to say much, thank you so much, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Nyunufati. Last but in no way the least, let's welcome the woman of substance, Memunatu Junisa Kamara, to come to the podium.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Good afternoon, representative from various stakeholders. Thank you. Thank you. I'm afraid to take out the mask. I hope I'm safe. Thank you for bestowing the confidence in me to come and stand at this platform and go for an election for a position that should be served for our entire nation, because it's not to do with an institution, it's a nation. And being in the hotel industry for 20 years, if it serves right, I don't know whether Mr. Njai have ever heard about my name, or Nyasi. They used to have sensitization programs for employees or contributors within the social security sector. What are the advantages, disadvantages, what are the shortfalls? And I feel during Mr. Tumbuldanso's time, some of us were the pioneer for some of those things to come up. We've also realized during the process that employers don't tend to give adequate information to employees. Employees don't know the do's and don'ts, the do's and don'ts of the Social Security Act. And I think the Social Security can witness that many a times staff without incomplete information or incomplete structure would have to go to them instead of employers. It all filters down to the networking, the sensitization process. I think it's lacking. If I am fortunate, being the only woman, I don't want to use that as an edge or an advantage, to be into the board, honestly, I would leave a legacy. For those who've worked with me, those who know me, maybe I'm not a good public speaker, but I definitely believe in what I take up as a challenge. I have been a vice chair for the Gambia Chamber of Commerce Employers Representative. I am still a facilitator with the labor department. It's to do with the experience. It's to do with coming up with information from the grassroots level. We've seen people who represent us in the board, and we don't tend to get a feel whether it's even in existence. I think there's a lot more that needs to be done than just sitting in the board for a year or two and then come up to say we're doing a re-election again. If I am elected, I want to leave a legacy of change. I want to create a footprint where everybody that could come hereafter would be able to know that this is the step or this is what has been done through the board, through our representative, and that should be a follow-up. I think I would not want to board colleagues and the press and whosoever is sitting here. If given the opportunity, I don't want to boast. I will honestly find time for what I want to do. Thank you very much.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, now the decision is yours. If you don't have a pen, we could lend you one to just write down. Please, on the side where you have the logo and stuff, write the name of the candidate. We have Ms. Memunatu Junisa Kamara, we have Mr. Njundu Fati, and we have Pakeba Nyangado.
Can I comment?
Yes.
My name is a bit strange. It's the fullest, and some people might find it difficult to spell. I'll appreciate just for
Mrs. Kamara, okay. You can just put Mrs. Kamara or Mr. Njundu Fati or Pakeba Nyangado. 3, and if you finish, just fold it. It's secret ballot. We should not see it. Fold it and just, yeah, anyone, just fold it, okay. And just drop it here so that we don't have, and after we will do the counting. I would want to ask, I need 3 people to volunteer. Don't worry, we are counting on the spot. No, we are counting on the spot, sir. Nobody will take the ballot box. We are counting on the spot. This on the spot counting, the box cannot go. Yeah, I need 3 volunteers here. Did you vote? No, you cannot volunteer. You will be biased. You are voting. This man is double. Okay, one more person. I need one more volunteer. So only, have you all voted? The polling station will soon be closed. I know you want to go back to working business with you. So do we have all the votes? We have all the votes. The voting booth will be closed in the next 1 minute. We have these late voters that are coming. Do we have anybody that has not voted? Just fold it and put it. declare one invalid. What's wrong with the lady next to you?
Okay.
She cannot vote. Okay. All the votes are in? Okay, what will happen, the 3 volunteers I have will take all the ballots out and we'll put the names and then we'll count. It's quicker. So just come, you will have to put one, the names, yes, and pile them together. Then after we'll count and make sure we have 53. Has everybody voted? Has anybody abstained? Just to ensure we have 53 ballots in. Okay, it seems. So you just put them together, pile them together. Maybe one person takes one name. I so wish Gambian elections could be this simple and straightforward and peaceful. Huh? December 4th. December 4th should be like this. Huh? Fat. Peaceful. No fighting. No insults. No, Gambia, we have passed impasse stage. All right. We have the ballots are in. And I just want the observer to observe that we are counting for the different people correctly. So for Pa Keba Nyangado, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 votes. For Pa Keba Nyangado, 8 votes. We are counting according to the way they came to deliver their pitch. For Mr. Nyundu Fati, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, and 20. Mr. Nyundufati, 20 votes. And for Ms. Kamara, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24. Ladies and gentlemen, I was just waiting. Sorry.
I think my work is done.
Yeah.
Thank you.
As a matter of fact, I asked whether all the votes were in. Did we say we had 53? Yes. So there is somebody that has not voted. Somebody abstained, I guess. Well, it's not a significant vote, so it cannot change anything. So we will go on. It's a person's right also to abstain. Ladies and gentlemen, by the powers vested on me as chairperson of the Independent Electoral Commission of the Social Security and Housing Finance Corporation, I am happy to declare Mrs. Memunatu Junisa Kamara as the representative of the National Provident Fund members. Let me say that I was waiting for the woman to lose. And I will call all of your wives and tell them not to cook lunch and dinner for you gentlemen. Well, but it's always a pleasure to be able to do this. We will now invite Ms. Memunatu Kamara to give the thanks to the voters. But let me be quick to also say I would like all of you candidates to humbly sign here to show that you endorse the results, so that tomorrow when you query the results, there will be no impasse. At least you have signed that you have agreed. So I humbly ask you, and then I would invite Ms. Kamara to come and give the vote of thanks. Ms. Kamara.
That does not mean that you should come to my office and create trouble.
You have every right to you have every right.
Thank you. Thank you. She's one of me that creates trouble.
She has every right now.
It's your boss now. And now she's your boss.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Njai is gone, so I can do away with the mask. I would not be tired to say good afternoon. I think this long-awaited privilege, as this is not my first time to emerge as a candidate. The last election, I was also selected by stakeholders who were present. And unfortunately, or fortunately, because it's a process, I was not selected by the voters, which did not create any hurt for me. I felt that it was a process that I had to really work at certain level. Those who were there, I don't know, we have a few, I've seen a few faces of those who were present there. And I am just emotional, sorry. And I want to actually thank Auntie Janet. No matter for the 2 years that she's actually served employees at the board level. Thank you very much, Auntie Janet. We wish you all the best. And I hope that I'll be able to connect from where you've actually stopped. When you're taking over, if you want to be successful, you need to get closer to your predecessor to be able to get a shade. If even you're going to create a changes, you need a foundation for everything. So I'll be working very closely with you. And for those who are here, I just don't want to be like the politicians. We've seen lots of slogans where they say the politicians, what they say and what they do is completely different. I am somebody who loves leaving legacy and work on what I believe in. I would definitely, I don't want to overpromise and underdeliver, but I would definitely create a change for once. I am not saying those who've been there, they've played their part. It's a stage, everybody comes and play your role and then you go. You leave for somebody else. But I have been very challenging to the Social Security team, despite I was not in the board, since Mr. Tumbul Danso's time, Auntie Siyawa Lindau, other people, you name them, that has been through the board. It's not just talking or doing things because you want to. It's you trying to get a first-hand information to be able to serve the public right. And dealing with over 300 to 400 employees, I think that's a very huge forum for me to gather enough to be able to put in front of the board. Notwithstanding, I would also definitely link with Mr. Fati. I have seen your, you've gone through your career path, and maybe you would have to help us with some links, which we should create between myself as a representative and the employers committee, so that we can not only wait for a next election, and I have to stand in front of the podium and give an update. Update should be continual. I don't want to overpromise, but I would have to go through certain people to make sure I am guided, and I'll come up with the little that I have. I'll use other departments that are concerned, and definitely I am sure we will be there. I want to thank you all for the trust. I want to thank you all for this opportunity that you've actually given to me, and I promise, being the only woman in the board, I'm not going to be Kanipachal, honestly. There is some level of diplomacy that we should be able to go around with to get what you want. I would play my role very well. I'll work on my part very well. And I'll not try to depict myself as if I've got it all. I'll go to the grass level. We'll come up with recommendations, and whatever needs to be done, I'll definitely do that. I'll want to thank the Social Security Management team. I'll want to also say a big thank you to the board for creating a platform of such. We've seen other key players that the employers are just left out. It's a decision by them, it's what they decide, it works, whether it's not questionable. Like some people normally said, you cannot fight the government. But this one, you've given a platform since the inception of Social Security for all the parties involved to be a decision maker in every process that you go through. So I'd want to say a very big thank you. Thank you very much, colleagues. Thank you very much. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Madam Kamara. Congratulations once more. To the general public, that's the end of the program. We can depart peacefully. Thank you.
Good afternoon. Mrs. Maimunatu Junisa Kamara, Director of Human Resource for Ocean Bay Hotel and Sun Beach Hotel and Resort, the Gambia owning company, that's West Africa Leisure Group, WALC. I felt that it's very timely. Since this has not been my first election to be elected by members, but this is the first time that I emerged to represent the National Provident Fund. And it's a great opportunity, and it's an opportunity that I've actually looked forward to. And I want to say alhamdulillah, and I'll definitely work to expectation, or if not beyond expectation, to create some level of change within the system. Communication, I think it's something that is very vital. In every aspect where you have a total communication gap, you tend not to achieve or get an end result. And given me the opportunity and being a contributor for over 20 years, I've got to feel that the representation was a bit a lack behind. Because communication was not that evident. But me coming in, I would not want to say at the early stage. I will actually work at my best level to make sure the gap that I feel people are observing would be thing of the past. I just like what I mentioned inside. We just want to say thank you to all the participants. It was a free and fair election. I would like to also thank the members that have given me this opportunity. Has built so much trust to make sure I gain this position, not just to sit in the board, but I'm sure they're also waiting in 2 years' time to see what the difference will be and what shade or what difference that I will create within the system, which I promise with the will of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, I will be there, inshallah.
I'm Fabuka Njai, Director of Corporate Affairs and also the Secretary to the Board, the Social Security and Housing Finance Corporation Board. Yes, the mandate of this corporation is until in the Sshfc Act of 2015, and basically we are here to make sure that when we collect contributions from our member institutions on behalf of the employees, and which includes the Federal Pension Scheme, National Provident Fund, and also ensure that upon retirement that these contributions are paid and these funds are also invested on behalf of these members, so that upon retirement they have value for their savings. And we also manage the Housing Finance Fund, which is to provide affordable housings for Gambians. So basically, we work with the Ministry of Lands, make sure that houses are available so for people who are looking for safety and reasonable accommodation. Yes, we have challenges. Basically, I would like to give example of, for example, payment gaps. We have some employees that at the end of retirement, they may realize that along the line, some of the employers may not have paid their contributions to Social Security, and there might be some gap. And sometimes it's very challenging going back and to make sure that that is resolved, that those payments are finally paid to Social Security. It can be delayed. It can delay the process of getting the benefit from the corporation. So that's one of the challenges we're really facing. And we're going to try to work with employers to make sure that we work together, collaborate, so that there's better communication, and then we try to resolve such matters. Oh yes, the election has been very interesting. I'm very impressed with the turnout. And also it's interesting to see that people are really participating, and also the comments and recommendations being put forward. We have taken note of those, and we're going to make sure that during our next planning and implementation process, they are all catered for. Yes, and we're going to make sure that the members are well connected, so that they get regular information from the corporation. And we continue to do that. It's improving, but we're going to make sure that it's better emphasized and better delivered. Yes. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.